Hi everyone, this is Paris Debono of the Fortune Teller Shop. How are you all? So this is a question answer kind of session. So this is not about personal readings. It's about things that you might want to ask or talk about in the tarot world. What did you think about the folks who don't suggest predicting pregnancy with tarot? Well, pregnancy is a major question for a lot of people. So clients often will want to know if they're going to fall pregnant, or if they, you might have to warn them that they're going to fall pregnant. If you get a lot of cards that are indicating pregnancy, you might have to warn them, like often I'll say to somebody, are you wanting to get pregnant? And they might say no. And I will say, well, you have to be very careful because your cards are very fertile, so you may fall pregnant unexpectedly. So pregnancy comes up quite a lot for people. And actually the other day I had a client from Australia who I saw, I think maybe 4 years ago. She messaged me on Facebook and she told me that that my prediction for her having children was correct, because she told me, I didn't remember this, but she told me that when she saw me in Sydney, she was wanting to know if she would have children. And when I was doing the cards, I kept getting the stork card. So in Lenormand, the stork card represents pregnancy, and she kept getting the stork. So I told her that she will fall pregnant and she will have, children, and she had the stork card. Okay, so this one represents pregnancy. So she told me that I was correct. She actually had 2 children. She had twins. So yeah, pregnancy is a normal question. It comes up a lot for people, and I'm not sure why people would think that's something that you can't predict. So I know that there was a post in the group about not predicting pregnancy, okay, or perhaps you shouldn't predict a pregnancy. But if you want to be a reader for the public, you have to be able to work with everything human. Okay, so let me say that again. Okay, so there was a post in the tarot group about someone saying that it's not right, or it's not possible, or is it possible to predict a pregnancy? And various people had various opinions, but pregnancy is part of being a human. It's part of life, and clients, you'll get a client one way or another along the way in your career that will ask, am I pregnant, or can I fall pregnant? So it's something that is human. And for me, as a reader, as a person that reads for human beings, I have to be open to answering every question that is human. Okay, so I can't put my own biases on their question. Now, in a reading, the cards that I like to see for pregnancy, I'll pull out a few. The Sun would represent children. Okay, I'll just go through my tarot deck and pull out the ones. Aces. Aces represent fertility. That's usually, the cup would be a girl, female child. 2 of Cups would be fertility. It's like the man and woman, or the egg and the sperm coming together. There's a lot of cards that, generally the positive cards would be a good indication of pregnancy. But the main card, as you probably know, is the Empress. The Empress represents, having a child, being pregnant. So whenever I see the Empress card, that's already indicating something about children. So the Empress card would be the biggest indicator of pregnancy. Okay, so whenever I see the Empress with an ace, for example, an ace of cups or ace of wands or ace of pentacles, that to me is indicating there could be a pregnancy that's very imminent, okay? So the Empress with an ace would be an indication of a pregnancy, okay? Another card that I think is also an indication of pregnancy can be the High Priestess, but this is before pregnancy happens. This is kind of like pregnancy is happening or the person is pregnant. This is kind of like before they are falling pregnant, because this is fertility as well, but it's the pomegranates are behind the High Priestess, not in front. So this is something that there's fertility happening, okay? The Six of Cups can represent children as well. The Three of Cups could represent celebration. Lovers can represent sex, the actual act of sex. The Pentacle, another indication, Ace of Pentacles can represent fertility as well as a child, a new beginning. The Star can also represent fertility because she's putting water from the river or the pond onto the dry land, which is showing fertility. And the Moon, especially for women, is also another pregnancy indication because the Moon represents the ovaries. Okay, so if you get the Sun and the Moon, that could be the sperm and the egg coming together. So there's a lot of indications of pregnancy or starting a family or beginning a family. Now, with the question of pregnancy, over the years, I've had many questions, okay? So there's a few that I remember, few stories that I remember very clearly. The first one was, I had a male, he was probably 18, 19 years old. And I remember he was a swimmer. Now, I'm talking about 20 years ago now, right? So I've been reading tarot for 30 years. So this is when I was still kind of in my earlier phases of my career. This young man came for a reading. He was 18 or 19, and I remember distinctly that he was training to be a swimmer, to be a competitive swimmer. And I remember looking at his cards, and he asked about his girlfriend. And she was, I think, a year younger, so she would have been like 17. So if he was 18, if he was 19, she would have been 18. If he was 18, she would have been 17. I remember them being very young. And I remember looking at their cards, and they had cards of fertility and sex. So I don't remember exactly what cards they had, but they probably had the Lovers, they probably had the Empress, okay, together. And they probably had an ace involved in that as well. Now, I remember distinctly telling him to be very careful of falling pregnant. And he was a little bit shocked. And I said to him, your cards are very fertile. And I know that you're young, and I know that you're trying to build your career. So you probably don't need a child right now, okay? And I remember his girlfriend was also a swimmer as well. So they were both very competitive in the sport. Anyway, what happened was, I finished the reading, he went away, and I warned him several times, be careful of falling pregnant, getting your girlfriend pregnant. I said, make sure you use protection, right? I said, make sure she's on the pill, whatever it takes. Anyway, about a month later, he came back to my shop in tears because she was pregnant. Okay, so even though I warned him, it was either too late or he didn't listen to my warning. And, they decided after the pregnancy, they decided to have an abortion. Okay, that was the way that it went down. So that was very sad. And the cards were really expressing this, that there was a pregnancy on the way, okay? Another one that I've had which was kind of a sad story as well, was there's this woman, again, this was in Sydney, when I was in Sydney, and I remember she was Portuguese. She was Australian Portuguese, you know, and I remember she was very traditional woman, very family orientated, wanting to start a family. She was only in her 30s, maybe 35. And I remember she came to me wanting to know if she was going to fall pregnant and have a child. And every time, you know, when I did the reading for her, it just was saying no. It just kept telling me no, she was not going to fall pregnant. She kept getting, you know, negative cards, loss. She just kept getting bad cards, like no fertility, Four of Swords, the Death card. Well, the Death card could sometimes mean a birth too. It depends what it was with, but it was with bad cards, okay? So it wasn't with fertile cards, it was with negative cards. And I remember telling her that she was not going to fall pregnant and it was going to be very difficult. And I also remember telling her that she needs to get into some medical, it could be IVF or something of that nature, where she needs to get help falling pregnant. Anyway, I remember she sort of came to me for the first reading, and then 6 months went by and she came back again for a follow-up, and the cards were still saying no, she was not going to fall pregnant and have a child. And then again, she came about a year after that, and the cards again were negative. They were just not showing fertility and not showing pregnancy. Then what happened was, I remember she sort of came back a year after that, and I remember she was going to go to a fertility expert, a woman that, there was a fertility doctor expert who lived in another state in Australia. She lived, I think it was up north somewhere. So we were in New South Wales in Sydney, and this healer was, you know, up north, and she would have had to get a plane to go and see her, which she did. She went and visited this woman who was in another state. And I remember looking at the cards thinking that she's still not going to fall pregnant, this woman. It's still not going to produce a baby, even if she goes and gets expert fertility care and whatever else from this doctor woman. Anyway, she went to the fertility expert, and then a few months later, she came back to me for another follow-up, and I still could not see baby, could not see pregnancy for her. And the reason I remember this particular client was because the cards were just so adamant that she was not going to have a child. They just would not give me fertility cards at all, ever. Each time I saw her, it was always like no fertility, no pregnancy, every time. Anyway, a few years went by, so now she's about, at the time she was about 40. So she'd been coming to me over years of 5-year period, and eventually like I remember I kind of knew her up to about age 43 when she got to, so that was like 9-year period, and she just did not have children. And then what happened was that because she couldn't have children, it put so much stress on her and her marriage that they ended up divorcing as well. So her and her husband were very, very, like, they really wanted to be parents, and her husband wanted to be a father. And but they just couldn't. It just wouldn't work. It just was not in her destiny. Alrighty, I'll see you guys later. This is Paris Debono of the Fortune Teller Shop. Bye.